I gave my whole soul to this art form, my entire self engulfed in the pious flames in higher planes. I don't aspire to wealth, just global heartwarming, parts forming into a whole, mentally bold and noble. Centuries roamed of total destruction, global abductions of children that were meant to be happy and tearless. To kill men you don't have to be fearless. My peers jest and I joke with them, smoke wisdom and exhale slowly, blessed by the pale and lowly, bereft of the real souls we rejected in disbelief. Forgotten prophets, as a twisted leaf wanders and crosses my optics, crosses in politics, hatred for Islam. I place my wrist and palms together, bond them forever in this position. To better my disposition, I sever myself from Christians, yet Christ is my life force like Krishna. I'm twice born, I listen and write storms, visions of night swarms of locusts, but light psalms focus my energies. I hope that my enemies shift from hatred to comprehension and compassion, from condescension and wrath to ascension and path to perfection, like ascended masters sipping nectar, happily listing the best of dawn's reflections, listening to blessed songs, conceptions, all the wretched wrongs of depression righted, glistening like throngs of pressing lichens at the steps of their oppressors' righteous strongholds, nightly stronger and bolder, like conquering soldiers of light against the armies of darkness. We harness the night's forces, calmly and honestly strike forth like the odyssey of life's course. I write forth right from the light source. I'm quite poor, but it's all in perspective, like my fall in retrospective. I needed it to rise. The deeds that I despise, they see them in my eyes, demons in disguise, dreaming of my death, fiending for my breaths to cease, left to cease. They won't get the best of me, rest assured. Blessedly I'll fetch my sword, etch the Lord's recipes and speeches. My enemies beseech me to be silent and useless, but they're violent and truthless, like ruthless youths. But the truth is, the youth is the future. So do this for them and prove it in gems and sutras.
So then, here's the drama. My metaphysics, let me be perfectly frank with you, are that there is the central self. You can call it God, you can call it anything you like. And it's all of us. It's playing all the parts of all beings whatsoever, everywhere and anywhere. And it's playing the game of hide and seek with itself. It gets lost, it gets involved in the farthest out adventures, but in the end, it always wakes up and comes back to itself. And when you're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just a little, poor little me. And since you're all here and engaged in this sort of inquiry and listening to this sort of lecture, I assume that you're all on the process of waking up. Or else you're teasing yourselves with some kind of flirtation with waking up, which you're not serious about. But I assume maybe you are, not serious but sincere, that you are ready to wake up. So then, when you're in the way of waking up and finding out who you really are, you meet a character called a guru. As the Hindus say this word, the teacher, the awakener. And what is the function of a guru? He's the man who looks at you in the eye and says, oh, come off it. I know who you are. You know, you come to the guru and say, sir, I have a problem. I'm unhappy and I want to get one up on the universe, or I want to become enlightened. I want spiritual wisdom. And the guru looks at you and says, who are you? You know Sri Ramana Maharshi, that great Hindu sage of modern times? People used to come to him and say, Master, who was I in my last incarnation? As if that mattered. And he would say, who is asking the question? And he'd look at you and say, basically, go right down to it. You're looking at me, you're looking out. and you're unaware of what's behind your eyes, go back in and find out who you are, where the question comes from, why you ask.
What exactly are you? Where are you? Where was your beginning? What shaped your beginning, if there is a beginning? Do you know anything about it? Do you remember the point at which you began? How are you here now as you are? Because everything that has come to you in the form of knowledge, you were there prior to it, to receive it, to approve of it or to embrace it. What is it that was prior to knowledge, prior to conditioning, without which no conditioning could have taken place? For whom has conditioning happened? On what do they impact? Yes. What would we have to say? At that point, earlier than your conditioning, what is the evidence of you? How could you be described? Yes. So these kind of questions, generation after generation, some contemplate these type of questions. For a while, we were deeply engrossed with external or objective knowledge, knowledge about this universe, about otherness, other than I. But for some, they're drawn inescapably to this question: who really am I? Who knows? What is the purpose of my existence? Everything that I seem to have acquired seems not to be stable. Everything is subject to change. Yet something witnesses all these changes. Throughout the growth or evolution of this form that we call ourselves, our states of mind have changed so many times. How you describe yourself, how you perceive yourself to be, changes from one moment to another. How you would have described or defined the sense of yourself a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. If your memory was sharp, you could look and survey all of these changes and see that at different points in time, your sense of self has been altering constantly, like an ever-changing self-portrait. What is it that's been consistent throughout? What observes all these changes? From where do you observe them? I say, until these questions have sprouted in you, we remain asleep to the truth of ourselves. You may acquire all the worldly knowledge that's available, yes, and still feel an outcast to your own self. I think Christ also mentioned something very close. Of what value if you gain the whole world in exchange for your soul, if you don't know who you are? So somehow, provided within this enormous and endless manifestation is an opportunity. Something burns within us at some point, not for all at the same time. As they say, even on the same tree, not all the fruits come to ripe at the same time. What is this ripeness? This longing to be home.
Spoken pieces with hope as thesis, potent apotheosis that leaves me speechless, bereft of breath, exhaling yeast and leavened bread celestial, netting them into terrestrial vessels of ageless premises to placate my nemesis, a dark foe within me, a jinn I abhor and slay with metaphors conveyed in the depths of my sentences, with the breadth of an entrance to forgotten gods' temples, the opposite of goddesses and mental, sent to eradicate evil in all its deceitful forms. They swarm like locusts, but my thoughts provoke them to reconsider. I grieve them bitterly, but proceed with speed to deliver them from misery, like that of miserly princes, infinities in the eyes of the peasants, surprising like denizens of Discordia. I speak in accord with principles invincible, like forgotten sages and divinities, with mental affinities gleaming like temples wrought in symmetry, essential like ministries of true faith. But there is no true faith or religion, just faith that's within you. Just don't have faith in the system. They disgrace you into sinful existence and repentance, a graceless sentence. I have faith in sentience, stay dazed for days in my sentences, grazing greener pastures with sages and apprentices, endlessly phase shift and shape shift, but not like knavish reptilians and simians, slaves to the pages of Gideon. I am no Anunnaki worshipper or crazed Christian. I slay Nazis enlisted with gifted figures of speeches, deliver them to the innermost and outermost reaches of the cosmos, spoken like when gods wrote from God's quote. Allah and Allah go together and grow forever, sow the weather and reap its products in the earth's soil, which is in turmoil, in turn spoiled, rotten like begotten children in riches. I'm kin to those rotting in ditches, rotting in sickness and misery, not to those plotting for said riches. I dead them with quickness, they dread me and my delivery, but I spread forgiveness.